U.S. Capitol, this is from CBS News. This is all the talk right now, and we're going to bring Logan Hall in to discuss this further here in a minute. From CBS News, U.S. Capitol replaces statue of Robert E. Lee with teen civil rights icon Barbara Rose Johns. Never heard of the lady. The U.S. Capitol on Tuesday began displaying a statue of a teenaged Barbara Rose Johns as she protested poor conditions at her segregated Virginia high school, a pointed replacement for a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee that was removed several years ago. Pointed is the correct adjective to use here. This is a middle finger, obviously, to Robert E. Lee. An unveiling ceremony of the statue representing Virginia in the Capitol took place in Emancipation Hall, featuring Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson, Hakeem Jeffries, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, a Republican, and Virginia's congressional delegation and Democratic Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger. Who needs Republicans, or rather, who needs Democrats when you have these sorts of Republicans? Republicans that really just do not understand the civilizational fight that we're in, do not understand what the left is trying to do when they make actions like this. They still have this poisonous idea in their minds that if they just throw enough bones to the woke mob, that eventually they'll just be like, yeah, these Republicans are reasonable, I'll cast a vote for them. It's just a serious miscalculation of what time we're in. Just absolutely humiliating. I wanted to outline a bit of commentary that was on this. This is from Logan Hall, who will be joining us. They tore down a statue of one of the greatest Americans that ever lived for this. Obviously, this is the video from C-SPAN showing the unveiling of the statue, and littered with Republicans, Mike Johnson and Glenn Youngkin here, for this statue of a lady that no one has ever heard of. Just unbelievable that, again, Republicans who are meant to be representing their constituents, and often these constituencies that they're representing are Americans. Typically, I know there's some exceptions. Ilhan Omar jumps to mind, but you're supposed to be representing people's not just economic interests, but you should be representing their sort of grievances with the project that's been taking place in the United States. And many people don't like to see their heritage erased. People don't like to see these bricks thrown through the window of Heritage America's history. Matt Walsh has been cooking on this. I reference him a lot, but he's always got it. He's got the sauce. He's adding his commentary onto the video here. Nobody knows who, quote, Barbara Rose Johns is, correct? I had no idea who she was. I had to pull up her Wikipedia, and even her Wikipedia is a bit lacking. Robert E. Lee was about 1,000,000 times more historically significant. He was also 1,000,000 times more honorable and courageous than all of the politicians applauding in this video. That really hits at the core of what's going on here. Is it's unimpressive people standing on the shoulders of giants, tearing down the legacy of immensely impressive people. That is exactly correct. Matt Walsh, again, he provided some more commentary. He's been cooking all morning on this topic. The left tells us that we can't have monuments to Confederate generals because they supported slavery and fought against the federal government and lost, and yet they tell us that we must honor Native American tribes who supported slavery and fought against the federal government and lost. That is exactly correct. Again, it's just this weird, bizarre thing where we celebrate these losers with the Native Americans. I mean, they just didn't put up a good fight. I'm kind of tired of this noble savage lines that people use regarding the Native Americans. We're supposed to venerate and celebrate them. But the Confederates, who, whatever your take is on the Civil War, it's not a Civil War history show. They had their cause that they believed in, and they were incredibly, immensely impressive people. Robert E. Lee is one of the greatest military minds, probably in human history, certainly in American history. That's worth venerating. That's worth celebrating. That's worth putting a statue up. That's worth having sort of a monument that when you're taking your children into Emancipation Hall that you can point to and say, well, this is a great man. Again, whatever gripes you have with Robert E. Lee or the Confederacy at large, that shouldn't downplay the fact that A, he was an American, and B, the way he conducted himself cemented him in the history books forever. Generally, as human beings, we should always be trying to learn from someone that has cemented themselves in history books. We should always try to be saying, what about them was so impactful that they were able to drop in on the timeline and shatter it? What about them was so immense? What about their gravity was so large that it pulled everyone in and they changed an era forever? So I want to bring Logan Hall in. I want to bring him to discuss this situation here.
But I'm going to pause real quick to give a shout out to today's sponsor, AmericanFinancing.net/Tim. The Fed dropped rates for the fourth time. And if you're a homeowner, you should call American Financing today. You could be saving real money every month. High interest debt is crushing budgets across the country, but homeowners who act now are using their equity to wipe it out. American Financing customers are saving an average of $800 per month, with some getting rates in the low fives, a massive difference compared to credit cards charging 20% or more. Speak with their salary-based mortgage consultants and find out exactly what you qualify for. There are never any upfront fees to find out how much you could save. Move quickly, and you could even delay 2 mortgage payments, putting cash back in your pockets immediately, giving you back some of the money you spent during the holidays. Call American Financing today. The sooner you act, the quicker you can save. Call 866-890-7811. That's 866-890-7811. Or visit americanfinancing.net/Tim. Now, let's get back to the story.
What is going on, Patriot? How are you doing today?
Good, how are you, man?
Doing all right. Can you give the people a quick intro of who you are and what you do?
I'm just Logan Hall. You can find me on Twitter at Logan Clark Hall. I am a digital strategist for the Blaze.
Yes, sir. Well, I wanted to bring you in because you obviously on the timeline for years have been a big proponent of America, constantly sort of pointing to great men throughout our history who have impacted sort of the history books in very dramatic ways, people that carry immense gravity. And Robert E. Lee fits into that very effectively. He is someone, again, I was pointing out, like, whatever your gripes are with Robert E. Lee, why would that be a reason to tear down a statue of such a great, immense figure? And then we obviously saw that taking place, and it was spearheaded by Republicans. We had Mike Johnson there. We had Glenn Youngkin there, 2 men who should be representing the sort of the desires, wants, et cetera, of their constituents, and they're failing to do so, and they're working in opposition to that by hoisting a statue of a lady that no one's ever heard. Even CBS News called it a pointed sort of statement, because they even acknowledge that, like, look, this is a direct insult to the history and heritage of millions, tens of millions of Americans, not just across the South, but largely. I mean, what is your whole take on this? We read your tweet, but what's your analysis of the situation, your thoughts on Robert E. Lee?
Well, thank you for having me. You're right. I do try to do a lot of pro-America stuff on the timeline. I love this country. I just want to stop it from being destroyed. Myself, I am an Ohio man, so my ancestors fought for the Union. So we actually did like fight for the Union. But my wife is from Texas, so I have a little bit. I think that gives me a little bit of credibility to say that on the Robert E. Lee thing. No, I just like to claim that I use her as my excuse. That that gives me a little bit of a claim as a Southerner. She doesn't necessarily agree with that, but but no, I think this is truly, and this is kind of what you got to, Tate. I think one of the most insulting things about this obviously came out of the BLM hysteria from 2020, where they just started ripping down statues to all sorts of great Americans throughout history. This wasn't just like, oh, it's about the South thing. That's what they said. But then they started quickly tearing down statues to Andrew Jackson, to Teddy Roosevelt. So this was more of a cultural revolution thing. Mm-hmm. It's actually cultural liquidation is what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I think the saddest part about it, even looking back on that era now, is how many of these weak Republicans just decided, they're like, oh, well, this isn't really, I guess, like, we're going to let them shame us because they're so afraid of being called racist by these leftists who hate them, that they're like, oh, well, I guess we could like move it to a museum or like take them out or whatever. This is pathetic. Mike Johnson and Glenn Youngkin, and I tend to like both of those guys. I have my gripes with the GOP, but they're not the worst among a lot of those guys, for sure. So I don't really have too much of an issue with them. But if you are supposed to be, these are supposed to be the guys that are stewards for the South. Yeah. How many Americans in Louisiana and rural Virginia, not, excluding Nova,
right.
want to get rid of a Robert E. Lee statue and put it up in its place some civil rights leader that no one's ever heard of.
Right.
It's really disgraceful. And this, to go along with an attack like this on America is, and that's what it is. It's an attack on America. It's an attack on our history and our people. Whenever leftists and Democrats talk about this Robert E. Lee, or foreigners too. We have, there's that great meme where it's like some woman in a hijab, like Robert E. Lee was a traitor to the Union. It's like, this is not your,
yeah.
So that's a whole different issue aside. But even as an American myself, whose ancestors fought for the Union, when I see someone like who's a foreigner desecrating like the graves or dancing on the graves of the Confederates, it's like, this is not your history.
Yeah,
you are clearly supplanting or redirecting your hatred towards Red America today and saying, you guys are the same as the South. You're the traitors. We need to destroy you. And so I'm sorry, I could rant about this for a while, but it's to see the Republicans going along with that is truly shameful. And last thing, Glenn Youngkin was in his post about this. He said something along the lines of, you can't tell the story of Virginia and the story of America without whatever this lady's name. Nobody's ever heard of her, but you actually that's actually true about Robert E. Lee. You cannot tell the story of Virginia, especially, but you cannot tell the story of America without Robert E. Lee. So I think going along with this is disgraceful, and it shows you how unprepared many are still on our side.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, first is like, to your point, I mean, you're seeing people that have no attachment to American history whatsoever, like adopting this weird like Union LARPing. Like there's this TikTok that went around years ago, and it was a girl, I think she was of like maybe Vietnamese extraction.
This is exactly what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And she had like this Union like Halloween costume on, and she was like, oh, like rest in piss, Robert E. Lee or whatever. And it's like hang on. First of all, if you read, if you read history and you look at sort of the sentiments among those who fought for the Union, those who were Northerners at the time of the Civil War, they did not have really any venom towards the Confederates. They viewed it as like this tragic thing, this tragic family feud that was inevitable in many ways, but they weren't like celebrating the deaths of their fellow countrymen, and they certainly wouldn't have been desecrating and mocking them. So it's just like weird that they take on this LARP to sort of desecrate people that they're trying to adopt a LARP and sort of retcon how these people actually felt when they did not feel this way whatsoever. And it's just bizarre to me that this is like permitted and promoted by the left. But what's more bizarre to me is that the right, like you said, is just not prepared whatsoever to fight back on this, as you correctly identified, cultural liquidation. It's like they just can't understand what's going on here. I make this point quite a bit, is you can't step into the left's framework and expect to beat them at their own game because they're the masters at it. You need to pull them into your framework and then beat them at your own game. And so it's so weird to see here is people like Mike Johnson, people like Glenn Youngkin, who I agree, like they're directionally correct on a lot of things, but where they expect like, okay, if we keep throwing enough bones to the left, maybe they will finally vote for us. Maybe they'll finally view us as sensible and they won't, they'll stop lambasting us as racist. And I personally, I thought this is why this story is so shocking to me, is I thought we had kind of moved on from that in many regards. Like this was something that really hit fever pitch, the Biden winter with COVID, with the BLM riots and that sort of thing. Yeah. I thought that everyone kind of wised up to what was going on. And to me, when Trump was elected the second time, I thought everyone was kind of in agreement, like, okay, we don't have to do these weird like struggle sessions anymore.
Yeah, so it's a humiliation ritual.
Yeah, so that's to me like just so strange. It's like these guys, Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House. This is someone who really in many ways is at the forefront of this right-wing movement in the United States. He is supposed to be the leader. He is supposed to be the guy that we can look to for direction. And to see him not just to the left of like the Republican constituency, but to the left of like some Democrats is just like, it's just, I struggle to find the words to describe how horrific this is.
Yeah, it is truly mind-boggling, and you're right. It is. But the GOP a lot of times they will pretend that they represent their constituents, but Orrin McIntyre has a great line that like a lot of the leaders in the GOP have the same beliefs as the left, that there's like this like army of like hidden Ku Klux Klan members somewhere in America. And so like everything must be upended to prevent them from like rising and taking over the government.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
But it's this absurd fantasy that like, oh, if we got rid of civil rights, for instance, that like somehow red America is just going to rise up and be, they view the same thing. It's like what the left does when they project their hatred for the Confederacy. What they're saying is we hate normal Americans in the heartland today, and that's what we want to do to them, is to annihilate them. They always say, oh, we should have hung every last Confederate. It's like, this is way crazier than any opinion that like Lincoln had. Now maybe Sherman could be a different one, but he might have been the most bloodthirsty of the Union. But even this is far more radical than what most of the Union Army, the Union soldiers, the Union command believed. I actually am going to take some time to, you might be able to see it back here, plug some of my favorite books right there. Those are Civil War by Shelby Foote. Everyone should read those. It's kind of a slog. It's like 1.5 million words. But if you want some understanding of the causes, the battles, the key figures involved, it is shocking, and it is beautifully written. I cannot recommend it highly enough. And I know Mystery Grove has been huge on this. I've had a couple people that put me onto those books, but they are phenomenal. And when you look at them, when you read them, you understand just how much of kind of what you were talking about, Tate. There is a lot of respect on both sides. So like you would have a battle where these people would be literally slaughtering each other. And then, for like one particular, if there was a July 4th holiday, there was a battle at Vicksburg, for instance, where on July 4th, the Confederate Army was besieged. They were pretty much like starving. They were about to lose. And there was no fighting on July 4th because and you would see soldiers like from each side, walking across the lines and exchanging various things that either side wanted, various supplies, and it literally was a brother war. And when you see there's that great picture, someone put it in color. It was originally in black and white, but there's that great picture of Union and Confederate veterans at Gettysburg when they're all like 80 or 90 years old on the anniversary, and they're all sitting there shaking hands. So this is like much different than what actually the left wants to happen. Is they don't want unity. We had unity on this point. It should have been settled a long time ago, but they want to keep reopening those wounds and keep hammering you over the head and just say, you are traitors, you are racist, we hate you. And they're not interested in coming together. And so I think it would behoove of Republicans to learn and understand that you're not dealing in an enemy. Like, this is not someone who's operating in good faith. They hate you. They're going to keep browbeating you until you submit. And you can't do that. One last thing, I would love to see. I know Trump's doing a garden. I think it's like a statue garden for America's 250th anniversary. I think for every statue that they tore down, they should put up one that's 10 feet taller for every single figure. It doesn't matter if it was Lee. They tore down Teddy Roosevelt. Like I said, they tore down a ton of these guys. We have to show that if they try to tear down statues to our heroes, we are going to rebuild them.
That's absolutely right. I mean, there's 2 points there. I mean, the first one in regard to sort of how the Union and Confederacy perceive themselves is, I think, like those gentlemen who fought. I think it was Bismarck. He said, war is just like sort of the natural conclusion of politics in many ways. So those men fighting just viewed this as, in many ways, just an extension of politics. It was like political theater. They didn't have this like bloodthirsty hatred. I mean, I'm sure some in the minority did, but the overwhelming majority of the men that fought didn't have this like bloodthirsty hatred for the opposition. And to your point, like we talked about earlier with that TikTok that everyone sort of references, but even like white Americans that are on the left that just view like the Union as if there was some sort of like super soldiers that had this like vengeance against the Confederacy. It's just so bizarre, and it's because it's like you said, they just view the Confederacy as an analog for traditional Americans, because those people who are LARPing as like these Union generals or whatever, and like, making all these threats against Confederates, these types of people would be scandalized by the views of a Union soldier. Really, anybody.
Yes, they would.
Yeah, like anybody at that time, they would also perceive them as like just this horrific backwards chud. Because that's exactly what was going on. So that's what's so funny to me, is that's like, okay, you're adopting this identity, but even those people, the Union soldiers would be horrified by them, and likewise, those people would be horrified by the views of these Union soldiers. And to your second point,
every single one, it's the same thing they do with the Antifa, right? They're like, oh, these World War II soldiers were the original Antifa. It's like, these guys would like absolutely hate you.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. It's just like, it's because they view history as just an avatar for their beliefs. That's all it really is, because they realize, these people on the left, they realize their beliefs are so inhuman that there's no sort of historical undercurrent to any of it, that it's just like weird postmodern deconstructionist, that in order to provide some credibility for their beliefs, they need to find these historical analogs to then like sort of retcon and sort of use as an avatar, because fundamentally they're like, oh wow, this actually has no precedent in history. This is an ideology that whatever form it did exist in history led to the destruction of that civilization. So maybe if we sort of adopt these historical figures that right wingers may be sympathetic to, then perhaps we could sell it to them. Maybe it'll pass the sniff test. But unfortunately, because they hate sort of core heritage Americans so much, they can't like get out of their own way, and then they just end up revealing that they do indeed have this bloodthirsty hatred for the Confederacy, which is just a stand-in for normal conservative Americans.
Actual Americans, yes. Yeah, I mean, to your point, Tate, if you go back and read some of Lincoln's inaugural addresses, like for instance, I think it's his second inaugural, Lincoln was not this like, they love to think of him as like this like anti-racism crusade or whatever. It's like, this is not actually, if you go back and read Lincoln, it's like there's some stuff that would really, really offend not just the sensibilities of the modern left, but also the conservatives. And it's just hilarious that, and I will keep harping on this, because I think leftists are just so consumed by media that everything is the Avengers to them. And this happens, this is to the extent of Republicans too. At least a lot of the boomers, you see this, where under, like, I saw a bunch of the comments under the post yesterday where the statue's being taken down, the video, and a bunch of these old boomer Republicans are like, oh, the Democrats were the real racists. Like we were the Republicans and whatever. It's like, this is so pathetic. This is not like what this is about, guys. Just get it through your heads. So that part is hilarious. But what I keep harping on is people really, really, really just, you don't need to get your information through Wikipedia. You should go and read old books, read about the men, what they thought. If you read, and again, I'm going to plug those books as many times as I possibly can. The Civil War books by Shelby Foote, the trilogy, it's amazing. But if you read some of these soldiers, Confederate soldiers who are not even technically educated, they didn't go to college. They couldn't name a whole lot of the Constitution. They could hardly basically describe like the Bill of Rights to you. The letters that they write are so much more intelligible and articulate than what most college students today are writing or able to talk, or the way that they're able to express their feelings or what's going on around them. It's crazy. It goes back to what you said, but people are just so historically illiterate that they don't understand what they're trying to explain and describe. Lee, for instance, was a formidable opponent. He was heavily, I mean, he garnered a ton of respect, even from the opposite side. The South thought he was going to be their hero, and he was, but they thought they were always banking, even after their big losses. They said, well, Lee's going to be able to deliver us from this, no matter how hopeless the situation gets. the opposite side, this is why, I mean, Lincoln had to shuffle through so many different generals before he got to Grant, because they didn't know how to deal with Lee in Virginia.
Yeah.
And they're all sitting there like, how in the heck is this guy doing it? He's outnumbered by tens of thousands of troops. He's outgunned. We have more machines, vastly more industry than the South. And yet he had like this, somehow he has such a fantastic military mind that he was able to outmaneuver them, even when he's vastly outnumbered. So there was so much respect for him on the opposite side, because they're like, he is the person who he's humiliating us in Virginia. It's fascinating to read about. So I would advise people to do that. I think that you get a lot more respect. And even then, the Union soldiers and the Union command all gave Lee a tremendous amount of respect for what he did. And even after that, they didn't decide to just like go down and hang every Confederate. They said, okay, this is done. Reconstruction was a little ugly, but it was done and it was over with. And then they embraced them back into the Union.
Yeah.
And so
there's so much there. I mean, with Lincoln, you're talking about this weird retconning where they try to turn him into this like wholesome Chungus anti-racist like figure, and it was like literally like the war happens, and then they're like, so what do we do now with all these freed slaves? And he sat back, he's like, we could just like deport them back to Africa. Like that was his solution. Like this guy is just completely out of step with what like the modern political zeitgeist would be like on the right or left. Like this guy was not this like wholesome Chungus redditor with a top hat like everyone.
No, he was not.
And like but I think it's also you mentioned this sort of the Democrats are the real racist line. Why that is ineffective as a line, I would say. I want to propose sort of something different than the conventional line of attack against that line from the right. Is I want to make the case that modern liberalism, as it stands, modern leftism broadly, has no historical analog. This is something that's demonic in many ways, and they can't find precedent in history because it's inherently a destructive ideology. Again, like I said, anyone that did adopt this ideology in any form ended up being destroyed so dramatically that they don't even make the history books. So
Yes.
when you can, that's a concession when you say the Democrats were the real racists, because you're saying, no, they actually do have precedent in history. This ideology has existed throughout history. No, this is something entirely new, something entirely horrific, something entirely destructive. And so that's why I think that line is just specifically like, you think it's like an own, but it's actually the opposite. It's like, no, you're lending them historical credibility, and it's just a complete disaster. And then, to your point with Robert E. Lee, I mean, you would see these old world powers. They were like, it was like college football where they were like scouting him out. They're like, who is this guy? Can we pick him up in the transfer portal? Like, what is going on in America? This Robert E. Lee guy, again, outnumbered, outgunned, and he's pulling off these massive victories. There's some historical anecdotes of the old world powers, like the French, the English, and the Spanish, and they're keeping an eye on this guy. Like, what is he doing that we're missing? Because we thought Napoleon was like a once in a generation military leader, but Robert E. Lee is pulling off the same stats. His KDR is insane. I mean, he's like 3 away from a UAV. I mean, like, what's going on?
Yeah, Napoleon himself was arguably pro-Confederate because the Confederates were appealing for foreign recognition, that they could say, okay, we've established ourselves. France stands with us now. There were some worries that France was actually going to go and put a bunch of troops in Mexico and then aid the Confederacy that way. But yeah, this is the issue. Nobody reads anymore. We have this thing where, the Democrats are the real racists. No, the Republicans are the real racists. Like, this isn't even a debate anymore. It's just childish. Yeah. And one of the great quotes from Shelby Foote too is where he says, neither side gave a damn about, this is his quote. He said, neither side gave a damn about the slaves. The South thought they were fighting the Second American Revolution, and the North thought that they were fighting to preserve the Union. That was what it was about. So this idea that like, it's like this wholesome Chungus thing. Like, no, this is just, and you can say like there was a lot of ugly stuff that happened in that war. We don't have to run from our history, but this is exactly what is happening. Is we are too afraid to come to grips with the fact, and we think that we have elevated ourselves. We're so enlightened. We're so smart. We have the internet. We have technology. We have all this stuff at our fingertips, and yet we're much dumber than the average voter is much less aware of knowledge and of history, of the Bible, for instance, than most of the soldiers who fought in that battle.
Yeah, literally.
So, it's crazy. I could rant for hours about this, but yeah, it's just read old books. That would be my big takeaway from this.
I totally agree. I mean, yeah, with the Lee and Napoleon comparison, I can't remember which poster pointed this out, but they pointed out that Napoleon studied engineering and Lee studied engineering. That was like the one thing they had in common, is they had an immense understanding of machines and well, engineering at large, and that obviously was something that gave them a tremendous edge on the battlefield. It's worth considering is maybe, I think what happens in our space a lot on the right is people get really bogged down in these like esoteric philosophy books and these like, these deep political thinkers and these sorts of things. But oftentimes when you want to win, you just need to like have the basics down, because really what's going to allow you to win is just if you want it more than the other side. Like it's one thing if you know all your stuff, you have all the points, you can get to your spots, if you get left open in the corner, you can knock it down. But there's something to be said about, look, if you have this hunger and desire to take your country back and you want it more than they do, then it's almost like sometimes a distraction to just like wait until you've read everything and you've accumulated all the knowledge and then you can get out there. It's like, just like get like the core, the way the world works, have that down pat and build out from there. So that was kind of my concluding thoughts. I don't know, Logan, if you have some final thoughts, and then more importantly, where people can find you to get more.
Nothing crazy. Just cannot stress. I'm just going to plug that book one more time. Read the Civil War trilogy by Shelby Foote. It's phenomenal writing. You can find me at Logan Clark Hall, and then follow The Blaze on social media.
Very based. Well, thank you so much, Logan, for hopping on. I'll catch you around.
Thank you, Tate.
See you, brother. Alrighty, guys. Well, that was the great Logan Hall. Man, I knew when this topic was was popping up on the timeline, there would have been no one better to bring in this dude. Not the Glaze, but he's fantastic. I totally recommend checking out his stuff. He's doing great work at the Blaze. With that, we're gonna wind down this show. I don't know, Kellen, did you catch any super chats?
I think there was one. If you scroll all the way to the top, it'll show you.
All the way to the top. Let's see. All sorts of activity in chat. Everyone's
keep
chopping
going.
up. Logan Paul. No, it wasn't Logan Paul. It was Logan Hall.
So yeah, this is the only one I saw.
Whose life was destroyed? The Capitol Police woman. I think he's referring to the Brown. The first guy that popped up. He had like some vaguely leftist beliefs, and so people on Twitter immediately dogpiled on the guy. And it turns out he wasn't the guy, and so now his name's gonna forever be tarred. As far as that's a whole different thing too. The Capitol Police pipe bombing. That's probably have to get into that at some point soon, because that's also a wild story. We've been blessed with quite a wild news cycle. Unfortunately, it's not for good reason, but there is quite a bit of things to sift through. So yeah, we got to jump on that as well. But with that, I think we'll wind this show down. Kellen, if you want to get that raid going for Devori, we're going to send you guys over to the great Devori Darkins for his show. I want to thank Crowder. He rated us at the top of the show. Stephen Crowder Mug Club. I'm a proud Mug Club head. We love Stephen Crowder, doing fantastic work over there. We will be back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern for Timcast IRL. I believe it's Brian Shapiro on tonight, so it's probably going to be more like a debate if you know anything about Brian Shapiro. I'll be on that panel, so I'll get active. Don't worry, I'll be there. We'll go. It'll be fun. It'll be a good chat. So with that, we will see you tonight. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown. Come give me a follow, and we will see you guys all later. Thank you very much.